Welcome to Midweek Moments. I'm Stephen Wright, Senior Pastor of Dahlonega Baptist Church. Are you humble before God today? Are you humble before God? And what I mean is, do you recognize your complete dependency upon Him for everything in life? Do you recognize your complete dependency upon Him for forgiveness and grace, for salvation, for the meeting of needs that you have in this life? Do you recognize that He is the giver of every good and perfect gift, that He is the provider of all? Are you humble before God? Because as my friend Jim Dennison says, God can't use us if we're not humble. Jesus illustrates this in a very profound way in a parable He tells in His earthly ministry, the parable of the Pharisee and the tax collector. It's contained in Luke chapter 18. Beginning with verse 9, Jesus says, "To some who were confident of their own righteousness and looked down on everyone else, Jesus told this parable. Two men went up to the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. The Pharisee stood by himself and prayed, 'God, I thank you that I am not like other people, robbers, evildoers, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week and give a tenth of all I get.' But the tax collector stood at a distance. He would not even look up to heaven, but beat his breast and said, 'God, have mercy on me, a sinner.' I tell you that this man, rather than the other, went home justified before God. For all those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted." What's interesting is that tax collectors during the time of Jesus were despised in the Jewish world. They were hired on by the Roman government to collect taxes from the people. And here's the thing, the Roman government didn't care how they got the money as long as they got theirs. And it didn't care if the collectors pocketed money for themselves as long as they got what they wanted. And tax collectors during Jesus' time were known for doing just that. They were known for taking more money from people than they were supposed to take so that they could make an exorbitant profit for themselves. They were cheaters. They were crooks. They were viewed as those who had sold out to the Romans. Pharisees, on the other hand, were highly respected religious leaders. They were known for their efforts at piety, for their ability to obey scrupulous rules that were well beyond the law of God. A Pharisee was to be emulated during the time of Jesus, so the people thought. However, this parable reveals otherwise, as it reveals the problem with the Pharisees' approach, the problem of pride, the problem of a lack of humility. So much so that a hated tax collector is the one who goes home justified in the sight of God, because this hated tax collector recognizes that there is nothing he can do to earn God's mercy. He is a sinner. He is sorry for his sin. He knows he is completely dependent upon God if mercy is to be his, and so he bows his head in shame and humility and pleads for mercy. The Pharisee, on the other hand, approaches God with a lack of humility. He approaches Him full of pride. He is impressed with himself. He is impressed with his own efforts. He is thankful that his efforts far surpass this despised tax collector. He raises his hands to heaven and prays. He looks up to heaven thinking that God is pleased, but He's not, because he does not approach God humbly. He does not recognize his complete dependency upon Him. The book of James says it this way: God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. So again, I ask, are you humble before God today? Do you recognize your complete dependency upon Him? Do you recognize His presence in your life, His love for you, what He has done to demonstrate that love through Jesus, through His death on the cross, through His resurrection from the dead? Do you recognize that He wants to guide your life in His love through His Spirit? That He wants to lead you to the kind of life where dependency upon Him takes you to places you never thought you would go, to spiritual heights you never thought you would climb. Pride is dangerous, as it clouds our spiritual judgment and prevents us from receiving so much of what God wants to give. Humility, on the other hand, positions us to receive all that we were designed to receive, all of Jesus that we need for today, tomorrow, and for the years to come. Thanks for joining us for these midweek moments. May your willingness to humble yourself before God result in blessing on this day and in the days ahead.